Hello.
Was that you, Jamie?
Yeah, that was me.
Six 6:30.
Hey. We have everyone here. Welcome. We are going to begin our meeting. Could the clerk please, excuse me, could the clerk please read the roll?
Jamie Bova,
Here.
Lynn Underwood Segby,
Here.
Elizabeth Fuerte, Charlie Holder,
Here.
Catherine E. Leonard,
Here.
Angela McCalla,
Here.
Jean Marie Napolitano.
Here.
There's a quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, has anybody signed up for the Citizens Forum?
Madam Chair, I see one person with their hand raised,
Yeah.
Allison Byrne. I'm not sure if you're here for the Citizens Forum or something that's on the agenda tonight.
Yes, I just wanted to speak for a moment.
Is it regarding anything that's on the agenda?
No.
Okay. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Allison Byrne Escribano. I resided at 21 K Street. I'm currently a water resource engineer for the Land Utilities Commission. I reside in Orlando, Florida with my husband and 2 children. But in college, I summered in Newport, Rhode Island. I worked in retail as well as for the New York Yacht Club and Blackstone Caterers. And I'd like to speak briefly about the problems with the lack of access to the harbor and the lack of necessary facilities. While I lived in Newport, I rode my bike everywhere, anywhere from 2 to 3 miles to get to work. The route took me along the harbor, and over nearly 20 years, there's been haphazard commercial development of hotels, more hotels, expensive restaurants, and there's just a lack of public access to the harbor and the facilities. Access to the waterfront, continuous access, requires a concerted effort by local elected officials to ensure that development includes public access. And this defines the quality of life, which makes or break a city and impacts the big long-term picture. And I feel you can preserve and enhance public access, support active water uses at public facilities, and at the same time ensure economic development, an active waterfront that's welcoming to all residents and visitors, not just those that can afford to pay high hotel prices and restaurant bills. I think it would increase the quality of life for all, and keep that charm that I remember from my college days. I urge you to pay attention to this in your decision making moving forward, and I believe it's unfortunate that not enough attention has been paid in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
No, there's not.
First order of business, please.
A public hearing on the recommended capital improvement program. Is there feedback or is that me?
I'm sorry, what please?
Can you hear me?
There's a lot of feedback though.
Okay.
How about now?
No, that's fine.
Okay, a public hearing on the capital improvement program fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2026.
Okay. I think we'll reverse it a little bit tonight. We'll hear from the public first. If there's anybody from the public that would like to address the capital improvement, please let us know now. Is there anyone, Madam Secretary?
I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Is there anyone on the council that would like to address the CIP? Yes, Councillor Leonard and Councillor McCalla. Councillor
Yep.
first.
I would just like to say that I made my comments at the last meeting, and there were several elements that the city manager was going to look at with staff, and we all need to remember that it's a document that's conceptual, and we'll all know more as the budget cycle comes to fruition.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCalla?
I think I want to kind of say the same thing as Councillor Leonard in terms of I've already made statements. I think yes, I recognize that this is not the final step in terms of the document, but I do want to bring up yet again to call to our attention in specific. I'm really still struggling with the fact that we need something like $1.2 million to fix a traffic light, and I'm actually wondering if it's possible to get a study to actually figure out whether or not, considering that the planning board and the planning department are going to engage in the master transportation plan. I mean, is our current traffic right now making sense? And that should also include whether or not a traffic light needs to be, whether that's still necessary. So those are my thoughts. Is that, I'm wondering from the city manager, is that possible at that point?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Either, yeah.
Is it possible to basically get the plant, is it possible to do a study on this traffic light that's mentioned in the CIP? So
I don't think it's just not one traffic light. It's a series of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so Broadway, Friendship, Spring, Toro, Bellevue K, Toro, Bellevue, Narragansett, Bellevue, Narragansett. Like, is it possible to do a traffic study to actually like figure out if that's the best way to move through the city as well? Are those traffic lights still, like, are there other solutions that we could think of that may be more cost effective than $1.25 million or spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in replacing something like a traffic light?
I think what's in front of you this evening is the acceptance of the CIP in terms of a concept. If there were, traffic studies cost a lot of money. You are developing a master transportation plan. On the other hand, traffic lights are considered essential safety mechanisms. I'm not the expert in it. I'd have to have Mr. Ricky, who is not on the line. Oh, yes, he is. I mean, Bill, if you want to join in here and maybe just expound on a few things, we can always do studies, but you have to load up, you have to front load the money on it. We're not going to be doing any studies on traffic lights between now and June 30th, simply because we didn't budget the money to do any type of study like this. And I don't know where else we would, at this late in the game, where we would find the money. But, we defer to the council's wishes on this based upon, but I think I'd like to hear from Bill Riccio on this, on your comments relative to the traffic lights and the expenditure. If you're still, I know you're here, Bill, I see you, but maybe you can unmute yourself and comment, please.
Yeah, so I thought we had a really good discussion at the workshop last week. And I do remember having a pretty detailed conversation about the first line in the capital improvement on that page, the restoration of the funding. Again, to highlight, that is to provide funding to match the 500,000 federal dollars we're getting. The bids have come in on Broadway and Friendship again. They're being reviewed. So again, this helps us to provide the necessary additional dollars to match the federal. Spring and Toro is based on the great partnership project that has been being developed over the last couple of years. And then, as I recall, talking the out years, you know, we're fine leaving the other ones as is, because as we discussed at the workshop, we were successful in getting the TIP money moved to Bellevue Avenue, and both of the other ones are will be, well, we could include them because they're along that corridor. So again, the out years are really conceptual in this. In relation to Councilor McCallum's comment about a study, a little bit more about traffic signals, or so we follow, as most local, and I know state and federal governments do, what's called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. All types of devices, from stop signs to signals, et cetera, are based upon warrants. And that's a pretty detailed subject. For example, one warrant might be on the number of turning vehicles at an intersection. Another warrant might be the number of through vehicles, you know, that might be going north-south or east-west. And basically that, when the warrants are met, that basically establishes the guideline for the need for a device at a certain location. We wish it was always as easy as just being able to install, for example, a stop sign and have a four-way stop. But as traffic numbers grow, delay increases, which changes the need from a stop sign control to, for example, a signal control. So I don't think a study per se would change the warrants that have already been met at those 5 locations. This again is to bring these signals up to existing code to better move traffic through the areas, to decrease delay, decrease just sitting there waiting for your turn, et cetera, so.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, there's someone from the audience who would like to speak.
Well, also, wait, council first. I saw Councilor Bovis hand up before. Are you still?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm all set. I had a question, but Bill Riccio must have read my mind.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, hey, Mayor, can I just throw one more thing in? I did forget the piece. When you tackle the signals too, as you know, staff is working at the council's direction on a complete streets policy. Tackling this helps us tackle and advance those items as well in the future, as that's developed in addition to the coming transportation master plan that is being led by Trish Reynolds' team, supplemented by Public Services.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, Nancy Pifford would like to.
Here,
Ah, okay. Full name and address, please.
Nancy Piffard, 4 Brenton Road, Newport, Rhode Island, 02840.
Thank you. Okay, proceed, Nancy.
Oh, was there a question?
Your hand was raised.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm
That's fine. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question in the audience? Do you see anybody?
I don't see anyone, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Oh, Counselor McCalla?
I'm getting used to doing this. Sorry, just something that Mr. Riccio had mentioned about the green and complete streets. We had passed this resolution. Is somebody able to comment as to where the green and complete streets is, the ordinance?
Yeah, I can, Chris P. and City Solicitor, I can speak to that. We have prepared a draft policy which would be put in effect by a proposed ordinance. The ordinance would reference the draft policy. That policy is going before the Green and Complete Streets committee that you formed by resolution. We actually have a Zoom meeting tomorrow to review that with the committee. So depending on how that review goes, it would then, I believe, be sent to the council after that, after the committee made their final recommendations to the council. So that's moving along. That may be before you in April or May or so.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, we had a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Can we have a vote, please?
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Madam Clerk?
Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
The consent calendar?
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar, but is there anyone who would like to remove something from the consent calendar? I know Councilor Leonard would like to remove B3. Is there anything else that needs to be removed? No? Okay. As far as the holiday selling license renewals and the secondhand license renewals, which are part of the consent calendar, are there any recusals on those? No. So we will just approve that within the consent calendar. So a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety with the exception of B3.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilor Leonard. All in favor? Any discussion?
Sorry, excuse me. Yes. I can't raise my hand fast enough. I believe under the consent calendar, there's a secondhand license renewal, right? I'd like to be able to recuse myself.
Okay.
Do I have to state in specific?
Yeah. Which organization, I mean, which store?
Bike Newport.
Okay. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna redo that motion. Motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety with the exceptions of B3 and H.
Okay, I see a hand raised by Mr. Nicholson. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to just note that I don't think you did anything with the resolution on number 1. I don't believe you adopted the resolution, the conceptual resolution. You can go back to it after this, but if you could go back to it, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Repeat your motion, please, Councilor Stickley.
Motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety with the exceptions of B3 and H.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilor Bova. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Clerk?
Yeah, I have it. Are you still getting an echo from me?
Yes.
I'm gonna try to work on that.
I'm sorry, can I jump in? Crispy and City Solicitor, was that unanimous?
Yes.
Yes,
Record has to reflect that it's unanimous.
that was the unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
take up the other two items, please.
yes, B3, please. Councilor Leonard?
Yep, Madam Chair. I asked that this be pulled because I spent a considerable amount of time the last 2 days talking to DEM staff, Bruce Thompson and Dean Hoxie. And this fireworks display was not permitted yet by the state, and this is on state property. And they've asked me or suggested that the council continue this until after the state receives and reviews the application. So I'm asking that the council continue this until after the state DEM commissioned or review group has decided, because they're trying to establish a policy now for fireworks on the public land belonging to the state.
Okay, there's a motion to continue. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Madam,
That's right.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
the
And
motion
go ahead.
passed unanimously.
Thank you.
The secondhand license renewals,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the secondhand license renewals with the exception of Bike Newport.
Second.
There's a motion and second by Councilor Bova. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
the motion passed unanimously.
Okay.
Now with Councilor McCalla recusing herself, I would like to make a motion to approve the Bike Newport secondhand license renewal.
Second.
There's a motion second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
The motion passed unanimously.
Thank you. We'll go back to the CIP, please.
We'll go back. I'm going to read the resolve. Resolve that the Council of the City of Newport hereby adopts in concept the recommended fiscal year 2022 to 2026 capital improvement program, with the first year to be incorporated into the fiscal year 2022, fiscal year 2023 biennial operating budget as funding allows. I move approval.
There's a motion and a second by Councilor Leonard. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed?
The motion passed 5-1. Councilor Bova opposed.
No, I'm sorry. I just was delayed and I approved.
Okay, so you voted in the affirmative?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so
My
then it
computer
unanimously.
had kind of flickered and froze, and by the time I missed
Okay.
the entirety of you asking for the approval and only heard.
Okay, so unanimous.
Yes.
6-0. Application for a new vittling license, the Nitro Cart LLC DBA, the Nitro Bar, 404 Thames Street.
I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Madam Clerk,
That was unanimous.
thank you.
Application for a special event license, Audrain Automobile Museum, Inc., DBA Audrain Newport Concourse and Motor Week.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
There's a motion and second to approve. Discussion. Counselor Bova?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a few questions, but I wanted to know if there was anyone from Audrain here that could answer them.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Boxer is on the line.
Okay. Mr. Boxer, one of my biggest concerns is the use of the state parks for parking. And in previous years, the frankly kind of misleading signage that had been posted that led some folks to believe that you had to pay to park there, regardless of whether or not you were parking to use the parking lot to then go to Audrain, or if you were just going to park there to enjoy the state park. And our state parks are specifically free, and the state makes a point of that. And I want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I wanted to know if you had any discussions with DEM on that as well.
Good evening, Councilmember Bova, Madam Chair, and council members. We are working with Bruce Thompson. We are working with Jennifer Chapin with respect to that venue site in 2019. We did not charge for parking. There may have been misunderstanding. We asked for a donation. Whether or not that donation was made by that particular individual or group of individuals did not prevent them or prohibit them from entering the property. And parking was not limited and exclusive to the event. So I hear your concerns, and we'll make sure that any parking designation or direction will be appropriate so that there's not further misunderstanding.
Thank you. And I had a further question on the COVID regulations that you were looking at, especially since it's such a large event. And I know that we all hope that in September we'll be able to have events such as that, but we really don't know. And so I would like to understand more of about what your contingencies are.
Right, absolutely. No, we are proceeding optimistically, but understand that if we were to have the event today, we would be subject to the current reopening RI limitations and restrictions, as well as any other restrictions that's placed on it by this council, the city, state, or federal government. Based on the rules as they exist today, the decision will be made whether or not that is economically viable for the organization. So this is a wait and see. We are optimistic that things will improve, that the restrictions will be relaxed, and are working with our insurer to determine the date on which we will have to basically pull the ripcord and cancel the event. And that outside date is July 31st. But any event that we do host, should we go forward, would be within the then COVID regulations as enumerated by reopening RI.
Thank you. And then my final note is, I believe I had seen that you had started selling the tickets ahead of this coming before the council for approval. And I would just like to express, I think that that's not the best way of doing it. And I think it sort of puts the council in a difficult position. And for us to be able to, have good conversations with you and your organization and amongst ourselves on the dais, I think it's for the best that, you don't sell tickets for an event before we actually have the opportunity to vote on it.
Understood.
Thank you.
Councilor Leonard?
Yes, thank you. I too had discussed this with DEM today and yesterday, and I also called Mr. Boxer. And we know that the application going before DEM and the state has not actually been received by DEM or voted upon. So we're talking here about parking for, I believe, around 7,000 cars at the fort. Councilor Bova discussed the donation part and whether parking was a paid thing or a donation. And I was told, just to clarify, that there were buckets with donations marked on them that were placed near the jitneys, if we want to call them, or the little buses, and that it was optional. And actually, those donations and buckets were manned by the Fort Adams Trust, and they were given part of that donation money, as were the other recipients who did receive some money. And I believe that were, some of those mentioned were, I think, Boys and Girls Club, but they're here. They're listed: Edward King House, Martin Luther King, Boys and Girls Club. I understand that they did receive some donations from the Audrain Newport Concourse Foundation. I don't know the amount, but I was told they did receive the funding. So I think that explains it a little more. And it was suggested again that the portion of this that deals with parking and the 7,000 cars at the fort, I think that portion should be continued until DEM actually receives their application and approves it. And that was the discussion that I had with DEM. So I think that the portion that deals with the parking at the fort, I'm requesting that that portion be continued until the state receives that application.
Yes, Chairwoman Leonard, thank you. The Audrain Automobile Museum and its affiliate, Audrain Concours Foundation, made charitable contributions totaling $80,000 to local charities, $20,000 to the Edward King House, $20,000 to the Newport County Boys and Girls Club, $15,000 to the Martin Luther King Center, $15,000 to the Autism Project, and $10,000 to the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation that went to first responders and our men and women in the military. In addition, $500 went to Fort Adams Trust, and another $500 went to Brenton State Park.
Okay, thank you. And I had a couple of more questions just for clarity. Part of this request or in this package where one was for signage, one was for golf carts, and I don't know if you want to deal with those separately. The council may wish to do it separately, but in terms of the signage, if I recall correctly, we approved the golf carts last event without any issues. And I guess the clerk or the police chief can verify that. If somebody knows differently, just let us know. And then the signage, I think that this signage request is for 3 weeks. If I recall correctly, we had the signage approval for the last event within the confines of the ordinances that we have. But if somebody could clarify that, I'd appreciate it.
Are there
Madam
any?
Chair, I cannot speak to the issues with the golf carts. I would defer to the police chief on that. But regarding the signs, yes, they were to comply with the ordinance and the length of time that they're allowed to have them up.
Thank you. So I would make a motion that, and I guess it would have to be in 3 different ones, that we continue the element dealing with parking at Fort Adams and Brighton State Park until the state receives the application and votes on it. So that would be number one. And maybe we would vote on that first.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to delay the vote until they receive approval from the
From the
state for the,
State DEM. Mhm.
okay.
To be clear, sorry for the interruption, but to continue that piece of the application.
Correct.
That piece, yes. Okay, does everybody understand the motion to continue that? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed?
And then the second motion would be,
Wait a minute,
Oh.
Madam Clerk.
That was
sorry.
unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Counselor.
the second motion would be to grant permission to use the golf carts as had been under the same stipulations as the last event. And I could put it together and say to use the golf carts and have the same signage throughout the city as approved for the last event. So I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Madam Clerk?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, there was a request to close Bellevue Avenue as well,
Oh.
from Bowery Street to William Street from 11 a.m. to
That
2
was the
p.m.
same as last year, wasn't it?
We didn't
Uh,
close it.
Yes,
That's what
we did.
was indicated.
Yes, it was closed for,
Okay.
yeah.
Motion to close Bellevue Avenue from Bowery Street to William Street from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on October 2nd, 2021.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilor Bova seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Madam Clerk?
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Application for a special event. This is a review for Road Races and Events, Inc. For the Newport Road Races Marathon, Easton's Beach, April 17th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think it's already been approved.
Right.
This is a review of this matter and a recommendation, if I may, it's Joe Nicholson, city manager.
Thank
A recommendation from the public safety staff and others in the administration, including myself, that the matter be, the prior permission be rescinded based upon public safety issues and race process issues that don't seem to have been resolved by DBR, but have been resolved in a fashion that would make the race, considering the number of the number of individuals that are going to participate, you'd have a day-long and a night-long race, and it just wouldn't seem feasible, in our opinion. But it's mostly based upon the race isn't really allowed under current guidelines, but DBR has been working with the promoter and has made some suggestions, and the suggestions are just not palatable to the city administration.
Okay.
So
Do I have a
make
motion?
to rescind this
Second.
application.
There's a motion and second to rescind the previously approved license for this race. Discussion?
Madam Chair, there's someone with their hand raised. I don't know if they're associated with the race or not. But.
Okay.
They are.
Good evening. This is Susan Rancourt.
Yes, thank you.
I would like to answer a bunch of questions, but as a discussion point, races have actually been going on in the state of Rhode Island since August of last year. And there's actually already a race happening later on this month, as well as 4 or 5 other races that are happening in April as well. This race has been severely taken back as far as the number of participants. We're a fraction of what we normally see. And we are certainly adhering to all the guidelines that are as far as reopening guidelines, everything that's in place, we are adhering to that. We already did execute an incredibly safe race in October in Narragansett, and nationwide races have come back online. We're up to about 3,000 participants. There's a race happening later on this month that has 9,500 participants. And of those road races, there have been no COVID transmissions that have happened as a result of a road race. So we're nowhere near that size. We're nowhere near what we normally are. We are within the guidelines that have been set by the state in order to execute a safe race. And I think, when you think about a race, you have to kind of throw that out the window as far as what we're going to be doing in April, because we do away with all the social gathering aspects of it. So the race is now set up in waves. We send people off at 6-foot intervals. They are socially distant throughout. They are wearing masks at any time they cannot maintain the 6-foot distance. We've eliminated the beer gardens, the post-race massages, the athlete food, the awards, everything that has anybody gathering for more than 10 minutes at a time has been completely eliminated. So we have learned that the CDC recommends safe and outdoor activities to combat COVID fatigue, depression, mental health, and much like sports are so important to our kids. These kids have grown up into adults, and I can't tell you the number of emails that we have received about how this race has helped them overcome depression, given them a goal, helped them fight the real mental issues that they've been going through as the isolation has helped. But a road race is just a complete example of how we can live not just under the restrictions that are put in place, but by April, certainly we're going to be in a much better place than we are even right now. I mean, the hospitalizations have halved just in the last month. Deaths have gone down by a quarter. And that was just from January to February. By April, we're going to have widespread vaccine availability. So even most of our participants have already reached out to us and said that they've already had most of the double vaccines. In another month, we're going to be in such a better position. But even knowing where we're going to be at in another month, what we're doing right now is based on what is the COVID restrictions based with DBR, DOH, and DOH has actually approved the race. We're still working with them on the start part of it, but they have approved the plan that we do have in place, which is a couple pages long. But I would love to answer any questions because I do. I know that we can do this safely.
Thank you. Councillor Holder.
Yes, thank you. So I noticed on the application, it says there will be liquor served, and also on your map, there's a beer tent. So are you saying that that is no longer the case?
Correct. Obviously, when we put in the application in July, we were thinking we'd be in a much better position when we were this April, but no, there's no beer garden, there's no liquor, there's no awards, there's no post-race massage. Essentially, you arrive, you run, we hand you your medal when you hit the finish line, and you go back to your car.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Leonard.
I just have to say that I think you're rather optimistic, because even though you're not going to have the events and the beer garden and so forth, we're still going to have all the participants and their families still in town. And we do have restaurants open, and we have really worked hard in Newport to stem the spread of COVID. And I think you're optimistic when you say that it's going to be so much better in April and everybody's going to have their vaccines. I think there's still a lot to be seen, and that the public and the residents of Newport have worked really hard to contain COVID. And I think that this is a very big event. And for that reason, I just feel that the public needs to be protected. And I understand what you're saying, but it still comes back to how many people and where will they converse after the race. You can tell them to go home, but that doesn't mean they're going to go home. So I'm going to take the recommendation of the staff and the city manager, and for the safety of the public, I personally can't approve this.
I will say that part of our participant agreement that every participant has to abide by is they have to adhere to all the Rhode Island travel restrictions that are going to be in place. And we have a very strict COVID protocol that every person has to agree to, as far as mask wearing, social distancing, their, the healthy runner status. And when we did this in October, I will say that people are so concerned with being able to have races. They are bend over backwards to make sure that we go above and beyond to make sure that we adhere to all the safety protocols that are in place. And I certainly respect what you're saying. And I'd like to speak a little personally. Everybody kind of has different feelings about our former governor, but the one thing I did like about her response is that she kind of approached everything as a mom. And so just so you know, Karen and I own, road races, and we're both moms, and we do approach our races with this mindset. In fact, both my kids work on our staff on race day. So, we and all of their friends do. When we have our participants come to our races, we often like to think of it as like we've invited our family and friends to our home. And we would never compromise the health and safety of our staff, our volunteers, our runners, and certainly the municipalities that we're so grateful that we're able to run in, unless we truly believed we could execute a safe event. This is not just our family business. We do think of everybody that's involved, like our families. And as the only certified race director in the state of Rhode Island, our focus has always been about safety, day in, day out. A race has always have some sort of intrinsic risk to it. But it's the spot we've spent countless hours and money and time focused on our safety protocols, even without COVID. Adding the COVID protocols to our plan is just a natural addendum. Providing a safe race is the very heart of what we do. So it is, I know it's scary sometimes for people to think about it, but there is nothing that is less risky than a road race, and it certainly showcases what a healthy, mentally important thing that we can do.
I mean, I understand that. I'm just saying that I don't know if it's possible to actually enforce any kind of non-compliance. We're talking a lot of people. We don't have a big police department, and we would have to depend on people's honor and honesty. And that would not just be people in your organization, the participants, but some that come with them. I'm going to stick to what I said because I care about this community, and I understand you mean well, and I understand that road races make a lot of money. But I think that it's so important for us to really protect our community.
If I could just add something, it's Joe Nicholson, City Manager. I just want to add a couple of observations, if I may, Madam Chair. The first is, and has nothing to do with road races, but our case count, for example, is up 70% from the prior week. So I have, and my staff have concerns about safety going forward generally, and the so-called plateau, which really isn't a plateau any longer, excuse me, as far as I'm concerned. The other concern that I have, and I'm just gonna maybe read and paraphrase a paragraph from DBR's colloquy with Ms. Rancourt's organization relative to the race. And that paragraph is as follows. While we can't at this time approve outdoor events with a 2,500 capacity, we do want to be able to assist you in making this event successful. Now, the next sentence is probably the most telling one from a practical standpoint. One potential solution that we would be comfortable recommending is allowing staggered heats of 125 participants per heat with staggered start times for groups of runners within each heat with 30 plus minutes separating each heat. So think about it. If indeed, Ms. Rancourt, you have 2,500 runners or even 1,000, let's use the 2,500. If you had a 9 o'clock start time with 30-minute intervals, and considering the length of the race, this is not only an all-day affair, it's an all-evening affair, which puts stressors on not only the general populace. We have to close all these streets down, but we also I have to marshal all our the street closures assisted by the police department. And of course, I suppose we have fire personnel assisting some way as well. So from a practical standpoint, if you have that many runners at those many intervals with that limitation on the staggered start times, we have to close the city down, basically, from 9, if you use the 9 o'clock start time, it's a 9 o'clock start time, and it's a midnight finish. At least if you just run simple numbers with 2,500 runners at 125 runners staggered at 30-minute intervals. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why DBR even gave you that type of answer, because it's no answer for you. It's not practical for you. It's not practical for the city.
Mr.
That's one
Nicholson,
aspect.
we were never intending to have 25 people in this race. We only are going to have about 1,000 people. And
Okay.
we're going to stay within the 6-hour guidelines that are given to the race. So we would find a way to make that work given the social gathering limit and the recommendation of the DBR. So we are, when I say we're at a fraction of what we normally are, we are definitely nowhere near that 2,500. We're
Okay.
probably about 1,000 people.
I think those are the answers the staff has been trying to get out of you, but I'm glad that we got those tonight.
I'm sorry, I had given those numbers to DBR. I apologize if they had not relayed those to you.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm looking at a March 5th letter.
Yeah, no, we had never asked for 2,500 people. We knew that back in January that we would never, based on current conditions, we knew that we couldn't do that logistically. We are very respectful of the communities, and our volunteers and our staff and the police. We know that we can't execute an event of that length for sure.
Counselor Holder, do you still have a question?
Well, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate for a quick second. On the state, what's the stop? 1,000 people is the same situation we were in last spring at this time when everything got shut down. What's the stop over 1,000 people from coming into the city on their own anyway? It seems like the road race people have everything in line to try to stay as protected as possible. And for the businesses in the city, we do the same thing. We do all we can to keep things as safe and follow all the protocols. So, what would be the difference of a few thousand people coming in on a regular Saturday than having this?
If you're asking me, they don't all come in at the same time and park at the industrial park and then get up to a start line at 125 apiece and then occupy our streets and close our traffic down for that time, Charlie. That would be my response. And I'm not being facetious, but again, we go back to our generic is we hope things are going to get better and we hope people are going to get vaccinated. I don't think everyone's going to get vaccinated by April at the pace we're going. And we do see a bump in the cases. So that's the best we can tell you. There's not support here from my office, the fire department, or the police department in terms of your public safety staff.
Councilor Bova?
Thank you. I'm definitely kind of conflicted because I would love to be able to allow this race, but I do think that April is, even with 1,000 people, even as severely reduced as you've stated, I think it's just too many people, both in terms of having people in a group like that, but also in terms of the impact it would have on our city. And I think that, it's something that I think we could revisit if we wanted to propose later in the year. But as far as where I stand, I think April, I'm not comfortable with having a race like this in Newport in April.
Okay, Councilor McCalla?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Councilor Bova's sentiments. Like this is a really difficult decision. I think that both sides make really good and compelling arguments for sure. And I think I was wondering, I'm actually wondering if could it be possible that this event happens at a later date? Because I am conflicted with the time being so close and understanding that, nationally 10% of Americans have literally only received the vaccine. And so it's such a low number, and it's very surprising, and understanding not everybody's vaccinated, and, you know, understanding, you know, to the city manager's point as well, that we are also experiencing an uptick in regards to COVID. And I just wonder, is that an option for you, Ms. Rancourt?
Sure. Just to clarify, I believe, and again, I'm sorry if I'm incorrect on this, but do you have a moratorium on events from May through October? Or
No. We are just revisiting this evening, and if I can answer it, Madam Chair. In this evening, we approved, or the council, I should say, approved an event for September, for example, the concourse. This is simply a short-term look as you, you know, as you come, because everything is so, I mean, you're right. Things are specious. Things could be completely different by the end of April. I'm with you. I'm hoping things could, you know, they could go either way. It's a very tenuous time. I would suggest March and April. I'm hoping things are fine in June, for example. We have approved events, or the council has approved events, primarily, I think the first major one, and Laura Swistak, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Jazz Festival in July. You know, we're keeping our fingers crossed with that, and it's relative. It's all relative to the state guidelines, which are, you know, are difficult, visited upon businesses like yours, but so is the pandemic difficult, visited on the rest of the populace, and that's the problem we're having, or I should say the city staff is having right now, is just the short term. And we only, the way we've been working lately, we don't look much past the end of April. We're just hoping to get to the end of April without things going awry.
so we're certainly amenable to that. We want to work with you as best we can. We've always had such a great relationship with the city of Newport. Obviously, you know, we were planning on having this race because we did have a permit. There have been people that have made, you know, training for a marathon is no small feat. People have been training for this event for many, many months. So if it means all or nothing, we would love to do anything in our power to keep the event. And we're certainly flexible as far as, I think we do have we do a half marathon in Bristol with the 4th of July on June 26th, I believe, whatever that Saturday is before the 4th. But if you will allow us to have the event in June, again, this race is so important to so many people, physically, mentally, you know, even economically, charitably. We give about $8,000 to charity with this race, if not more. So we are certainly open to working with whatever we can do.
The staff would recommend June, would work with the race promoter for June. I think that's a good suggestion.
Councilor Holder?
Yeah, one quick question, and it's probably for Joe. Have we been in touch with Middletown as well, and what their thought on this
Same
is?
attitude, Charlie. Yeah. And Sean Brown and I talk every day on every item under the sun, and this is a discussion that we've already had, and we've had this discussion with DBR as well, in terms of life in Rhode Island in April. And I think Middletown has it on their docket for March 15th, but I know their town manager has the same attitude that your city administration does.
Councilor Bova, then Councilor Leonard.
I just wanted to ask either the city manager or the city solicitor what motion would be the best way of, you know, having the staff work with Ms. Rancourt about the potential of rescheduling to the June timeframe.
Chris, you want to shine on this one?
Yeah, I would just, you could amend I think there's a motion pending right now to rescind the previously issued license. You could amend it to rescind the date in April and refer it to city administration to work with the event organizer to find a date in June.
I don't
Of
suppose
course,
it's possible to pick
I
that
would
date
think
this
that would
evening.
be best, excuse me, I would think that'd be best only because we may have other events in June too.
Yeah.
So it's important that we all get on the same page. Counselor Leonard?
I have to say, I mean, between Memorial Day and Labor Day, the beach, which they use for parking, has parking for all the beach goers. So I think that's a big issue. And I also think that nobody's got a crystal ball to say today, yeah, it's a good idea, postpone it until June. We really don't know what's going on with COVID. And until, I mean, we had an uptick last week when we thought it was going to be smoother sailing. So to basically say, why don't you postpone it until June without looking at the whole big picture of where we sit in June in terms of COVID, and then you have parking at the beach, and there are a lot of elements of it that I think really are the unknown, even though I understand, you know, that people want to have the race. I think to say, oh, go ahead and do it in June, I just don't think that we can do that yet.
We can work with the promoter and look at June, and I'm going to defend the race this time, because the parking is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Rancourt, but your parking was going to be at the Middletown Industrial Park, not at the beach.
The parking is, but we do use the parking lot for the finish of the race.
Okay. We'll have to check, obviously, if you're going to, we have to check with the beach staff about this as well, but they're part of the administration.
Okay.
Counselor Stokely?
Yes, thank you. I would like to see if Ms. Rancourt's organization can work with the city in June. I think that it's a fair way to go. What I'd like to know though from Mr. Bean though, do I have to withdraw? Do I withdraw my motion and then make a new motion, or?
Yeah, yeah, you can do that.
Okay, so I will, so I make a motion to withdraw, right? And then we have to vote.
Just withdraw the motion and then restate a new motion.
Okay, so I will withdraw the motion and restate the motion to rescind the race on April the 17th and have the organizers work with the city for a future in June.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed?
The motion passes 5-1 with Councilor Leonard opposed.
Okay.
Application for a special event license, Newport Festa Italiana, DBA Newport Festa Italiana.
Yes, this is an event put on by Newport Festa Italiana, September 28th and 30th and October 5th from 6 to 8, October 2nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and October 11th from 12 to 1:30. There is also a request to waive all fees associated with the event, including the special event, banner license, and parking use fees. I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Yes, Counselor Leonard.
I just have the same question again. I mean, this is a great event. I attend it myself. I like it. There are only 500 people in attendance, but this includes the Columbus Day Parade, if I'm correct. And again, I really don't know the future of COVID. None of us does. I'm happy with everything about it, except knowing that if things do take a turn for the worse, what happens in terms of a Columbus Day parade, which is usually a huge influx of tourists because it's a 3-day weekend. So I just, we're dealing a lot with the unknown, and I'm concerned about the health of our community. And I'm not saying that it would be caused by the Festa Italiana. I'm just saying that that's a big, big weekend, and we're still dealing with unknown health issues.
Councilor Leonard, just to allay your fears, I spoke directly with the organizers.
Okay.
And I had stated that if in fact there were any directives from the state, anything, any anomalies, anything, any increases, that we would have to change the plans. That goes for anybody that has spoken to me, because we don't know. You're right.
No, we don't know.
And as long as we don't know, but I believe we do, many feel that by September, we should be in pretty good shape, September, October.
Yeah, we hope so.
If not, if something happens, then we have the right to rescind whatever we approve on the basis of a health issue.
All right.
So,
You did speak to the event organizer. All right, thank you. I'm more comfortable with that.
okay. Councilor Bova. Jamie, you're
Sorry,
muted.
technical issues. I just wanted to echo what you said, Madam Chair, about, whenever we approve any of the events, we always have to keep in mind, and so do the organizers have to keep in mind, that if something goes wrong, the numbers start to change, anything like that, we can change our minds, because it's about the safety of residents above all else.
Absolutely. Okay. So we have a motion. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Do
Councilor.
we have to make a separate motion to waive the fees, the license fees, including the special event banner license and parking use fees?
No, we can just include it.
Okay. All right, that's
It's
fine.
written. Yes, Councilor Bova, do you have a question?
Oh, there was someone from the public with their hand up, but they've since put their hand down, so I'm not, it was the event organizer, it was Diane McCaffrey. I didn't know if she still wanted to be heard.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Holder.
Yeah, has this always been the way to waive the fees for this event in the
Well,
past? Out of curiosity.
it has been requested in the past, particularly with those with sister cities, because it's all volunteers. They run a lot of different programming, and they have asked because there's an official affiliation with Newport. Yes.
Great. No, I was just curious. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, are we ready to vote? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed?
Passed unanimous.
Thank you.
Application for a pedicab business license renewal for one pedicab, Timothy Burke, DBA Grace Pedicab, 6 Karen Ann Drive, Bristol, Rhode Island.
I move approval.
There a second? Councilor Leonard seconded. Discussion? Here, yes, Councilor Leonard.
I have a question. These pedicab licenses, this one's fairly easy to read, but the other two that follow, I can't read any of it. You can barely read any of it. So as I look upon this one and I looked upon the other two, it says that the Ocean Drive area has no lighting. And I brought it up before, and I don't want it on my conscience. Bless the people who drive these pedicabs, because it takes a lot of muscles, and I certainly couldn't do it. But they can basically, and it looks like all three of these have Ocean Drive as part of their area. And they can basically go from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. in the morning. And once it gets dark, I can't tell you how many people say, yes, they have lights, and yes, they're riding. And I'm so afraid. I'm lucky I haven't killed anybody yet. So I'm looking at this, and I really would like the health and safety, or the police chief or the city manager, to discuss or give comments on why it would be safe to have these in the Ocean Drive area where there are no streetlights. I mean, I'm happy that they're in areas where there are streetlights, but in the application, the conditions are that pedicabs may not operate between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. and are prohibited on Franklin Street and Memorial Boulevard at all times, and on Memorial Boulevard West between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., except to cross over at Spring Street and Bellevue Avenue. But there's nothing here about what I think is the most dangerous area where there are no streetlights.
Well, it's Joe Nicholson. I'm sorry, Lynn, I interrupted you.
Mhm.
I mean, the easiest answer, and I'm not being facetious, but ordinances, as you just referenced, are a product of the council. And so if there are areas that you are of the opinion these cabs should not travel, then we need to talk about it. And the council, with our guidance, needs to amend the ordinance. But as it stands today, the disallowed routes are set forth in the ordinance. And Chris or Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the right answer. That the council allows this.
Yeah, well, I've asked for a long time. Nobody ever said put in an ordinance. But I will say that from a public safety standpoint, I don't want it on my conscience. I'd like to know what city staff feels about having pedicabs in areas where there are no streetlights.
Councilor Leonard, perhaps you can discuss that with Mr. Riccio at another time, and there would be a consideration for an ordinance that would prohibit that.
All right, but that means I'm not going to approve this until I know what's happening. All
Okay.
right.
Madam Chair, we have, sorry. I was just going to say, we just have a couple of people who want to speak on the line. There's Justin Richardson and John Litherland.
Just as a point of clarity, they are both two of the additional applicants following the one that you're voting on now.
Ah, okay. Okay, well, the issue, I think, that we're discussing as far as the Ocean Drive. Justin, can you please identify, state your name and address, and then proceed?
Hello, my name is Justin Richardson, and I'm the owner of Newport Pedicab, and my address is 84 Wayne Street, Warwick, Rhode Island. And I'd love for John to speak first.
Okay, thank you. And who is John?
John Litherland, he's with Captain John Pedicabs.
Okay.
Hi, this is John Litherland. I am the owner of Captain John Pedicabs. I'm a longtime pedicab operator with Newport Pedicab, starting my own business, one rider, one cab. I will tell you that Ocean Drive is a daytime destination. It's for tourists who want to go around and see the sights, see the waves. I've never ridden Ocean Drive at night. So I guess we could clarify where we're going to ride. We ride in the downtown and commercial areas at night, servicing mostly restaurants and other nighttime attractions. During the day, we ride up on Bellevue, servicing the mansions, occasionally a drive around Ocean Drive, which is quite a long trip on a pedicab. But we don't operate in unsafe areas where there are no lights at night. Also, I'd remind you that the pedicabs are fully illuminated with the same kind of lights that any car would have: headlights, tail lights, directional flashers, and side marker lights. So we are visible anywhere we are at night, just as we are in daytime. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, John. Justin, did you still want to comment? I guess not.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like, you know, if people thought it was a safety issue that we wouldn't be out on like Ocean Drive at night, like that would be no problem. Because we really don't ever go out there on nighttime anyway. But it's like I would just reiterate what John said about the lights.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilor Leonard.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I really truly have been concerned about the safety of the pedicab owners, drivers, and the people who sit on those. If you're not going to go where it's dark and there are no street lights, I don't have a problem. I think you guys got guts, and I'd probably be in the cardiac unit if I were peddling those. But I'm glad to hear that safety comes first and that you really don't go in that area after sunset, because I think it's dangerous. So with that said by you three, then I'm happy to approve it myself.
Okay, is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Do I have a second to approve the licensing for the pedicab?
Second. Madam Chair, we have one other person on the, oh, no, never mind. Oh my goodness. Sorry.
Is there somebody else on the line?
Was Bonnie Watson.
Bonnie Watson would like to speak.
Okay, Bonnie?
Yes, sorry, just quickly, because I do.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, sorry, Madam Chair. Bonnie Watson, I'm at 44 Catherine Street in Newport. Just quickly, I use the pedicabs, they've been great. The cars that go down streets that have no lights have car lights, right? Do the pedicabs have lights on them like a car or a bicycle would at night? Does anyone know?
Yes, yes. We have it's in the ordinance that we have to have lights, just like a car
Okay.
would, with directionals and headlights and brake lights.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, Madam Chair and members of the council, why a pedicab would be treated any differently than a bicycle or a car? If they have lights, I mean, there are a lot of streets in Newport that don't have
I think
lights.
probably that would be my answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you broke up.
My answer would be because they're carrying the public. You know, either citizens of Newport, perhaps visitors. So I think it kind of is an added responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely understand. I don't see the difference between a pedicab and a bicycle though. And yeah, I understand that
dangerous too then.
But if they have lights, I would think that we'd let them go on streets that don't have street lights because they have lights on the vehicle similar to a car, no matter who the car is carrying, or a bike, no matter who is riding the bike. That was my only point. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, is there any other comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, we're going to approve these separately or all three together?
Why don't we approve them separately, just so the public knows which ones they are, please?
So motion to approve the pedicab business license for Timothy Burke of 6 Karen Ann Drive, Bristol, Rhode Island.
Second.
There's a motion, and a second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Madam Clerk?
Unanimously.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the pedicab business license renewal, 2 pedicabs from May 1st through April 30th. Justin Richardson doing business as I Want to Ride Pedicab LLC, 84 Wayne Street, Warwick, Rhode Island. I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Madam Clerk, the vote?
It's unanimous. Madam Chair, Justin Richardson has his hand raised.
Okay. Mr. Richardson? Yes.
Hi, hey, I appreciate you guys letting me talk. This is I'm Justin Richardson, and I've been pedicabbing in Newport for 8 years, and I've like managed Newport pedicab at different points, and I've also, I have these 2 permits that I'm renewing today. It's like what I'd like to say is that like I tried to get the other permit that John had like unsuccessfully. Like I want like more permits. And it's like now that we have 2 operators with John and Tim who are not going to be like renting their bikes out to other people, they're just going to be owner operators. Like I would like the opportunity to be able to expand my business in the future, because it's like I'm just like a young father of 2, and in other pedicab, and I've pedicabbed like across the USA, and it's like I've been doing it full time for a few years now. And in other markets, it's like there's typically more pedicabs than there are riders. So like the riders have like more options on who to rent from, and like what they're preferred.
Mr. Richardson, I'd suggest that perhaps you should check with the licensing with our clerk to see if there is anything else available in the future. But for now, this is the license that we have in front of us. So I can appreciate where you're coming from now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a pedicab license. It's a new for 1 pedicab, May 1, 2021 through April 30th. John Litherland, doing business as Captain John Pedicabs, LLC, 158 Narragansett Avenue, Unit 0. I'm not sure the city, it's got cut off from my docket. I'd have to check that. Does anybody know what it is? But that's okay. I move approval.
It's Newport.
Okay. Oh, it is Newport. Okay.
There's a motion and a second by Councilor Leonard. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Madam Clerk?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have an application for a mobile food cart establishment. The first is for Newport Lobster Shack Group Cooperative, 20 Friendship Street in Jamestown, Rhode Island.
I move approval.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Why don't we do that?
Can you keep your hands up for me? I think it was unanimous.
Yes,
thank you. Unanimous. Then we have Newport Chowder Company, LLC, DBA Newport Chowder Company, 10 Pell Street, Newport, Rhode Island.
I move approval.
Second.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
And that's unanimous as well.
Thank you.
Next, we have Long Aid, LLC, DBA Dell's Lemonade, 1 Winfield Court, Middletown, Rhode Island.
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
And that's unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And then we have Viking Hot Dog, LLC, DBA Viking Hot Dogs, 1 Courthouse Square, Newport, Rhode Island.
I move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Hold on. I do have one quick question. Does this max out the cart licenses at 6?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just,
Let's take that vote so that the clerk can see us. All in favor of the last Viking hot dog, please raise your right hand.
That's unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
appointments to boards and commissions.
Yes, I move to appoint Allison Oakley to the Beach Commission for a 3-year term.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I wanted to ask for the handful of appointees for the commissions that we don't require interviews for, if you could share the applications with the council so that we can have more information on these applicants.
Absolutely. We will.
I find it's a little hard to for them without knowing their background. I should have asked it earlier.
I wasn't aware they weren't. They weren't.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Did we take a vote on Allison?
Not yet.
Okay. All in favor of Allison Oakley, please raise your right hand. Okay.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Energy and Environment Commission, I make a motion to appoint Sam Witten to a 3-year term.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Tree and Open Space Commission, there are 2 vacancies. I make a motion to appoint Lauren Parmalee and Karen DeMello.
Pamela.
Second.
Yeah.
There's a motion and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise. Thank you.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Historic District Commission, there's 2 vacancies. We interviewed a number of people. I make a motion to appoint Richard Adams and Michael Ryan.
Second.
There's a second. Discussion. Counselor McCalla.
Madam Chair, a couple of things kind of came to my attention that I was thinking about. Understanding that there are a total of 2 vacancies and 2 alternate positions, and understanding that we have a scheduled interview for the HDC, 2 more applicants on March 11th. I would ask the council that we continue this the HDC appointment so that we have all of the, so that we know all of the applicants and we have all the information that we need, because we understand that there are only 2 full-time positions and 2 alternates.
The problem is that the HDC has meetings every single month. They're developing a backlog. They need people to have a. This just brings them up to the point where they can have a quorum. There are going to be 2 more appointments the next meeting after the interviews of all the people we've appointed. But I was asked to make sure that we get appointments at least this meeting, so there's not an interruption in the meeting schedule Historic District has.
I think that in this, for the HDC, again, I want to be able to, I think it's important that the council be able to make their final decisions as one. I don't want to make a rush decision. I want to be able to consider all the applicants and then make my final decision that way.
But it doesn't happen that way. They have meetings in between. If we do not appoint and they don't have a quorum, they can't have a meeting. That just makes it that much more of an agenda at the following month. I was trying to accommodate Historic District Commission by making the appointments tonight so that they can continue to make progress with their schedules. Yes, Councilor Leonard.
I have to, it's not fair to the applicants to HGC that have been waiting weeks and weeks to be heard when they don't have a quorum. And we interviewed so many people, and at this point in time, I feel that it's necessary that we have them so they can operate and help the public get through it, because we're supposed to be a user-free city, a user-friendly city. So if we don't appoint and have people there, then people can't get on with their projects, and it holds up their contractors and everything else. It's not fair to the people who are trying to get work done. And when we finish the other discussion and maybe a couple more interviews, again, we'll look at the 2 vacancies or whatever is going to come up and deal with it then. But we just can't keep going over and over the same thing.
Okay. Councilor Bova?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to say, I brought this up with the planning board appointees, and I was really pleased that we were able to have a discussion about the interviewees and make a group decision as a council on who we wanted to appoint to the planning board. I thought that was a really good process, and I hoped that we would be able to do that again with the HTC. I recognize that they do have quite a lot on their plate. My concern is of the 4 that are in front of us tonight to pick 2 from, for me, I am only supportive of one of those candidates in terms of what I think is best for the HTC in the long term. In terms of appointing people with knowledge and expertise that would allow them to be of use to the HDC and allow them to actually get off and running. I want to ask the question of how many people are on the HDC now, because if there are 2 vacancies, that means there are 5 members currently. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I would ask, I guess, the city solicitor, are there not only the 5 members?
I don't know the actual composition right now, but if there are 5 members, they would need 3 for the quorum, I believe. I think when they have alternates, normally in zoning, in the regular zoning, you could have 7 members on the zoning board, but only 5 are actually voting members. So if that applies also for the HDC, then they would have to have the 5, or they wouldn't have. They would drop down from, if they drop down to 4 or 3, there wouldn't be a quorum. But I can check on that. If they followed zoning, the regular zoning, they would need 5 to consider any petition.
And with that in mind, would we be able to, I'm trying to see if we can strike a balance. Would we be able to appoint just 1 member to that tonight and then be able to go forward?
At this point, there's a motion on the floor to appoint Richard Adams and Michael Ryan. I think we should take a vote on this.
Are we able to separate the 2 vote candidates, Madam Chair?
I'm sorry, what, please?
Are we able to vote on the 2 candidates separately?
Certainly.
We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor to approve Richard Adams and Michael.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Wait, excuse me. If you don't want to approve them, just don't approve them.
That's not what I was saying. I think during the discussion part, I had asked if we could continue, if that was a possibility to continue.
And I said that they said they have cases coming up and they needed to have enough, they needed to have a quorum. So we still have 2 more appointments coming up our next meeting. And we have people that have continued to apply, which we will be interviewing.
With all due respect, I would like to make the motion to continue and put it to a
Can't make
vote.
a motion. There's a motion on the floor right now. We've got to vote on that one first. Yes, Counselor Segley.
Yes, we have interviewed people, and we have interviewed both of these people, and actually all of them, and they're quality candidates. I don't see what the problem is. I would like to see us vote right now. Thank you.
On the floor.
Okay. Well, the motion is on the floor. All in favor of appointing Richard Adams and Michael Ryan, please raise your right hand.
Motion passes 4-2.
Thank
Counselor
you.
Bova and Counselor McCalla are opposed.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is the Henderson Home Commission. There are 2 vacancies. I move to appoint Joanne Ritchie and Derek Grinken to 1-year terms.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Yes, Council.
Madam Chair, I just had a question. I guess this is probably for the city solicitor. I know that the Henderson Home Commission is it's important, and the Henderson Home does a lot of good work for the city. I'm wondering if there was any thought to making the terms longer, only because I know that the commission has had trouble keeping members in the past.
Actually, the chair asked me the question, and I said in the future, we really should, put a longer term on that. Absolutely.
How would we do that?
Well, I think you would do, the term limits basically are on the ordinance provision in Title II dealing with boards in general. So we could address the Henderson Home. It is addressed at Henderson Home specifically in a chapter in the title, and we could put it in there.
Okay.
Make it an exception, carve out a specific exception.
Councilor Holder?
Yeah, after we vote on the Henderson Home Commission, is it possible to get an update of where we are as far as vacancies on all the commissions?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll have Sam send out something to all the council this week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joanne Ritchie and Brinken, did we haven't voted on that yet. So are there any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor of having Joanne Ritchie and Derek Grinken on the Henderson Home, please raise your right hand.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
A resolution regarding equitable development added to the comprehensive land use plan.
Yes, I'd like to recognize Councilor McCalla. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Bova, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we get started, I would just like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. So I put forward this resolution, and it is asking the council to begin the process of amending and updating our comprehensive land use plan to more specifically and precisely address equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I put it forward because I think that it's the right path to be able to accomplish goals that we as a city have set forward for our community, and to also move Newport forward. It's about all the residents of Newport and providing them with policy that supports them. And I think that if we don't do this, it undermines the progress that we've made, and would be a setback against the goals that this council has done so much work on and has said are so important for Newport. And I also want to address, there's 3 segments of the resolution, and well, there's 4 resolved. The first is that the council sets up amending the comp plan, and then the next 3 are asked to include the planning board in future council trainings and workshops and other training opportunities that focus on diversity and equitable development and anti-bias, things of that nature. And the second step would be for the city council and the planning board to have a public workshop and a public forum that engages the public in the conversation around this type of policy, and also would help us to more specifically define what equity would mean for Newport, because it is it's a word that has become a bit of a buzzword, and we have to define it for Newport specifically for it to be meaningful for our community. And the final resolved is asking the city manager to investigate the hiring of a consultant who has the expertise in equitable development policy and equitable planning policy. So to update the comp plan to improve the overall language and explicitly address health, education, and equity. And I worded that very specifically because I would not ask this council to spend money on something that not properly researched, especially with all the challenges that we have this year, which is why it's very specifically worded to ask the city manager to investigate hiring a consultant, because that will get us the information that we need to make that decision and make a decision on how we want to prioritize things in the future budget, which I know we've been talking about a lot. And I just think for us to say that we care about equity and inclusion, we have to be specific and clear about that in the comp plan, because that's we all say that's the guiding policy document for the city. And I think being able to be explicit in the comp plan will improve all of our policies that really stem from the comp plan. And I think that, if anyone has questions about what this would mean and how equity would actually be able to be woven into the comp plan, I think that voting for this resolution actually allows those questions to be answered, because it gets us more details and kind of puts us on the next step forward.
Okay, did you move passage? You did.
I did, yes.
Okay, discussion, yes. Councilor McCalla.
I was actually just wondering if, just to be clear on the ask as well, I was wondering if there was representation, if the board chair for the planning board was here to talk about it, because we had already kind of had preliminary discussions. We heard from Tricia Reynolds as part of our last conversation, which Tricia kind of gave us an introduction to the letter. And I wonder if, so I see Kim is here on the line, and I'm wondering if Ms. Salerno would be willing to elaborate a little bit more.
Am I on?
Yes, you
Yes.
are. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I just was hoping, would it be possible to briefly recap the letter that was received at the last council meeting? And just straight the main points. So the main points of the letter were that last spring, during the racial unrest that resulted from the George Floyd killing, the planning board formed a subcommittee to address issues of diversity and inclusion. And what we decided to do was look to our planning document, the comp plan, for unintended racial bias. And as the group studied the plan, we didn't see overt racism, but we did see significant omission. And through the help of staff, we referenced the American Planning Association best practices, and they have a lot of recommended material for improving comprehensive plans to address unintended racial bias. So we incorporated the American Planning Association best practices into our recommendation. State law, you probably are aware of this, but state law has benchmarks for reviewing the comp plan, and we're just coming up to our 5-year review. So we're in the process of assessing our the effectiveness of the plan, the successful completion of parts of it, and then possible room for growth and improvement. And we expect to take the to at least mention this the things that we've learned through this working group in our assessment of the 5-year review. We have made a series of recommendations that will impact many chapters, and we also will recommend a couple of new chapters. The main ask in the letter is to be included in any training in the future to promote public outreach regarding the issue, and then finally to hire a consultant. I do understand that I'm not sure what the city relationship is with Smart Growth America, but I do understand that this is the kind of thing they do. So we might be able to explore working with them in the future. But the idea is to take the already pretty developed proposal that the planning board unanimously supported, and to develop it as a fleshed out equity program in the comp plan. And I just want to make one thing clear, and that is this idea of equity. Equity does not mean equality of outcomes. It means equality of opportunity. And so what we're looking for is just making sure that access and opportunity is fair. And with that in mind, I'd ask you to please consider this, and thank you. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councillor Holder?
Yeah, thank you. My question is, I'm very hesitant to agree to this resolution just because there's just so many moving parts to it. I would be much more comfortable taking it down piece by piece, just because there's just a lot of information in each resolution, and they're not all. It's not one big ball of wax. It's separate. There's separate entities in this, and I'm just not comfortable in saying yes, I agree to this, even though there are parts of it that I do agree with. But as a whole, I'd much rather have a discussion on each topic. Especially obviously with the voting on hiring of a consultant. I don't want to overlap hiring for the city, and then possibly with a consultant from SGA. And then my last part of it is, when you're dealing with the equity part of it, to me, it's becoming very vague on what we're talking about and where we want to go. I mean, equity to one person is completely different to equity for somebody else, even it is on the outcome. So what is the outcome we're trying to get to? And I mean, those are things we really need to talk about. I'd rather see specifics in these plans as opposed to just generalities in what we're trying to reach.
Yes.
Is that a question for me or for the council?
For the council.
Councillor Leonard.
I think feelings as Councillor Holder. First of all, I keep going back to the fact that it was not the city that hired Smart Growth America. It was hired independent of the city, and they are doing their own research or recommendations, and I'm going to assume that they bring their information to the city, but they're not employees of the city, and we've already gone through this process for almost 2 years. And I think that once we see if and what and when with some information, that would be the time to discuss a lot of elements of this resolution, because that's not what we had discussed in the workshop and so forth in terms of who's going to drive the bus, so to speak. So I'm not comfortable either just with these 4 resolves. I think we need to look at it step by step. And again, I think Counselor Holder's right, is going back to a lot of these terms have become vague in terms of who you ask and what the definitions are.
Okay, Counselor Segley?
Yes, thank you. I also feeling that this resolution has too many resolves. I think we do need to separate it out at some point. And, I'm listening to what Kim Salerno was saying, and, she's saying that there's no overt racism, and but there could be some omissions. But there is a document that she referred to that could possibly help us go in that direction, that possibly the planning board could work with, so that it would be a starting point. I mean, our attempt at the comp plan, the open space plan, the North End urban plan have always had the goals of equity. And we're learning new things all the time, and perhaps with Smart Growth America, we will learn even more. But I think that this is a bit premature. And although I certainly can understand the rationale for it, but I think right now it's a little bit premature. So I don't think I will support this in its entirety, but I think maybe in a few months after we see what happens with Smart Growth America, we could be open to some more information.
Can I just mention that I am working with somebody right now that has offered the training. And I think we have to be trained to see what we're looking at first before we can really decide what we want to address, particularly in the comprehensive plan. I had planned to send out the information to all the council and invite the planning board to do the training also. It just feels like some of this is a duplication of what maybe Smart Growth America, which I was under the impression they would be bringing their recommendations either to planning or the council. And at that point, people on the planning board could move it forward. People on the council could move it forward. But this just seems like too many hands in the pot. And I'm not sure that I agree with some of it, but I think the training would certainly help everyone to get on the same page. Yes, Councillor Bova, then Councillor McCalla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to reiterate a few things. Number one being that this resolution has nothing to do with SGA. This resolution was prompted by the study done by the planning board and the discussion by the planning board and the report from the planning board, all of which was in the works well before has reached out and made a partnership with SGA. And I think that we have to recognize that there's a difference between SGA looking at developing an equitable development strategy for the North End versus incorporating equity more specifically into the entirety of the comprehensive land use plan. Because like I was saying, this is something that is for all of Newport, because I know that lately, as we've gone through the process of the North End urban plan, and there's been a lot of discussion about ways to improve the North End and equity in the North End. And those have been excellent discussions, but equity is an issue that affects our entire city and all of our residents, no matter where they live. And that's why I think it's so important to have specific language on equity in the comprehensive land use plan. And the other item that I also want to reiterate is that voting for this does not vote to spend money. it votes to ask the city manager to investigate what going forward with a consultant could look like. And that could mean he says, you know what, I think our best bet is to hop on the SGA bandwagon. It might mean, hey, let's go with the folks who did the comp plan to begin with. It might mean let's go with someone else entirely. But I'm not, or he might say, you know what, we don't have it in our, I would recommend we don't pay a consultant in this year. We do, we look at doing it in a year or so when we have more funds and are more set up for it. But I just think that we need that additional information specifically on the consultant to make that decision. And then I also think the first two asks in this resolution of including the planning board. I mean, Madam Chair, I appreciate so much that you automatically were like, of course we'll include them in this training that you had found. And then we also have the workshop to do the very thing that I think a lot of counselors are concerned about. I heard it from Counselor Holder and I heard it from Counselor Leonard tonight of, what does equity mean? And I think that is a super valid question. And I think we have to understand what equity means for Newport and what it means for Newporters. And having those types of discussions in public in a workshop type forum with our residents as we discuss policy and initiatives and how we want to keep moving forward towards those goals of an equitable and inclusive city. That's how we get there. That's how we find those definitions.
Thank you. Councilor McCalla?
Jamie said a whole lot that I want to echo, Councilor Bova's sentiment. And I think there's a lot of things and a lot of statements that, we've talked about whenever it came to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the things that really resonates with me in the question that's always consistently being brought up is, what are we missing? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? And, even to Counselor Holder, you answer, you ask a really good question in terms of what are the specifics, right? Like what do we need? What do we need to know? And the reality of the situation is we can't ever answer that question if we're constantly stopping things and just, we can choose to be able to, we can ignore this, but I am very passionate about the fact that, when we just heard from the public comment sector, there was a woman that came out and talked about the struggles for public access. What about higher paying jobs? And again, access to people that want to work here and want to be able to live here. What about our year-round residents? It does cater to all of those things that we have ran on in terms of our campaign. And it will help us to ask the right questions. And I want to also acknowledge that, yep, facing this is super scary. And maybe we didn't start a lot of the laws or policies or social contexts that were put in place. And I don't think that there are people that there are people here that are actively trying to create plans that adversely impacted a community, okay, our community. And all we're asking for is just to continue the conversation, okay? I'm asking our council to be brave and let's look at these problems head on, if any, to be able to talk about it and continue the conversation. This is not going to be an overnight process. And are we all experts in this? No, we're not. But we can all face this together. And I would just ask that we continue the conversation. Let's just keep going with this.
Councilor Holder?
Yes, thanks. Just to reiterate, I think Councilperson Bova made a great point. This is about the entire city. And I think people get confused because there's so much going on with the North End urban plan and that development, that it's almost, once people bring up whether it's inequities, I think a lot of people think right to that part of town, and I don't think it's not fair to anyone involved, and it's not fair to us to try to get through this. which is why I think it's important that we really need to break down, some of these resolutions or some of these resolves in the resolution, just so we can get to our specific goal and know exactly where we're coming from, as opposed, and because we know where we want to go. We want to do the best for the citizens of Newport, and then we're not going to do that unless we, focus on where we need to go, and not just going in blindly.
Councillor Underwood?
Fine.
Oh, I always see that, Segley, sorry.
Okay, by having an issue with this particular resolution does not stop a conversation in my mind on equity, because I think it's a very important conversation we have to have. I believe that we can continue the conversation through the planning board. I just think that this particular resolution is not the resolution to adopt at this particular time, but no one is saying that this is going to cut off any conversation about equity or us learning more about our community and how we can make things fair for everyone. So I don't want people to think that because I'm not in favor of this particular resolution, that I am not in favor of what it necessarily stands for. Thank you.
Councillor Bova, do you have anything new to add, please?
I actually wanted to ask, I know Councillor Holder said, that he wished that we could kind of break up or look at the resolved separately. I just wanted to ask, in the interest of keeping this going, if you would be able to elaborate on that, Councillor Holder, because I think that I want to understand more of what the pushback is, because I really feel that the concerns that I'm hearing from a lot of councilors, I don't understand them, because to me, I think that this resolution isn't doing the things that it sounds like some councilors are concerned about. So I just want to understand more what the concerns are and which, specifically what you think could be different or where you want more information. Because when you say, we don't know what equity means and that it has to be across the whole city, which I totally agree, Councilor Holder, thank you for saying that again. I just think this could be a step to get us there. Like
we have so much on our plates, and I was asked to try to line up something with planning board, with the council, which I believe I have done, which I'm going to communicate to the rest of both planning and council. I think it's important that we know what we're dealing with first, to identify the different issues. This is what they asked the planning board, and I think what they started was to address these issues or address the equity, and really wasn't sure what they were looking for. And that's where I think the training may be able to help us. That's where we can continue our conversation and become knowledgeable about what we really want, what we really think equitable treatment is, justice in the community. I just think it would be important if we had some training first. And this is something that the person that does it gets a lot of money for. And he is willing to do it with the city council, and with the planning board pro bono. So I think that's important that we know what we're dealing with first. I think this is a bit premature. We've had an awful lot going on. We did have the meeting with Smart Growth. I think there's probably some tremendous ideas they could offer us, but that remains to be seen, and that should come forward from them to either the council or the planning board to incorporate in the future or to plan for in the future. It's just, we have an awful lot on our plate right now, and I think we've headed thus far in the right direction. As far as the education piece, that probably should go to the school committee. They certainly are more in tune with maybe some of the issues of equity in their school department and treatment of children there. So, Angela, do you have another comment, please? Thank you.
I don't know. I'm just stunned speechless here right now. I feel like, so when reading and also listening to, the chair of the planning board, Kim Salerno, one of the biggest features that needs to be accounted for is although our planning board had made the recommendations, those recommendations were stemmed from the national organization, the American Planning Association, and in which also Rhode Island has its own chapter as well. This is not a stab in the dark. We are not starting from square one. There is work that has already been done and started and researched upon. And yes, while I agree with you, Madam Chair, in terms of, yes, we need to be doing more education. We need to understand because, diversity, inclusion, and equity are often moving goalposts too, right? Like there are often we're still learning that there are legal and also social contexts that we have yet to even discover and even talk about. And yet our community is asking us to be proficient in this and be the experts and be the ones that stand in front of these situations. And the reality of the situation, to echo everyone else, what everyone else is saying is, yes, this situation will not go away.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bova?
I just wanted to make one last point and just say, I recognize that there is a lot in front of the council and the planning board, but I think that this is like incorporating equity into our plan, into the comprehensive land use plan, which is the guiding document for all of our policy in the city, is something that would improve everything that comes afterwards. And I just think that we have to make this type of work a priority, and in order to really get to those points. And I want to recognize the work that we have already done and are continuing to do. I don't want, I'm not saying that this is, the end all be all, but I'm concerned that I don't want us to have a comprehensive land use plan that doesn't specifically call out equity and doesn't specifically state the things that we need. And I don't think that it was excluded during the drafting of the comp plan intentionally. I don't think anyone drafted the comp plan and was like, no, we don't want to put equity in there because we don't believe in it. I had no belief that was the case. I just think it was left out unintentionally and has had unintentional consequences at times. And now that it's been brought to our attention, we can be intentional about doing better.
Yes, Councilor Segley? Your mic, you've got to unmute yourself.
All right. Equity is going to be put into the comp plan. And equity is going to be, we're going to have the language that's necessary in there for equitable situations for everyone in the city. And because I don't agree with this resolution and the way that it is stated does not mean that we are not going to have those conversations. So I am feeling a little frustrated here because this is not an all or nothing thing. I just don't agree with the way this resolution is stated, but we need to continue to have that conversation. Thank you.
And I have spoken to the Director of Planning and Zoning, and she has indicated that they would be willing to incorporate language into the comprehensive plan, maybe in a modified form right now, but it certainly would help us if we have some training in this to proceed. So I think it's all over the place in the resolution, and I would like to see it coming through. I'd like to have these discussions with the planning. I think we can do what you would like to see us do, but I do believe that there are people that have to have this training first, including some council members. So, you know, Angela, do you have a comment?
Just one more thing, and I'll get off my soapbox. So I just want to say, well, actually, I have a question. The Councilor Segley, if this equity chapter is supposed to be injected, when and how is this going to happen? Because I believe that Councilor Bova is literally created a resolution in which that could definitely happen. And also what I'm afraid of as a council as a whole, what you guys are pretty much communicating is that this is important, we want to support it, but we're going to vote this down. Like, it doesn't, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, either, you know, yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Yes. Can you restate your motion to approve, Councilor Bova?
I move approval of this resolution, Madam Chair.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand. All opposed? Right hand. Motion
fails. Action number
Wait,
5.
hold it. Please identify who voted which way.
Councilor Bova and Councilor McCalla voted in the affirmative. Mayor Napolitano, Councilor Leonard, Councilor Segley, and Councilor Holder voted nay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Action number 5963.
Yes, this is a recommendation from the Department of Public Services to award bid 21-028 portable toilets, installation and cleaning of portable toilets to Hallman Septic Service and Portable Toilet LLC of Portsmouth, Rhode Island for the period of January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022, with a 2-year option period, same months, with not to exceed the total expenditure of $25,000 as specified in the bid contract, and this is currently budgeted. I move approval.
There's a motion and a second from Councilor Leonard. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
That was unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Action number 5964.
Yes, this is a recommendation from the Department of Utilities, Water Pollution Control Division. The staff recommends the award of amendment number 2 in accordance with Section X supplemental agreements of contract number 19-010 with Kleinfelder for engineering services for design of the North End Sanitary Sewer Project for an amount not to exceed $59,900. Amendment number 2 is associated with additional engineering services required to prepare contract documents and resident inspection for the cleaning of the Long Wharf Force Main. Funding for this project will be provided from the Water Pollution Control Enterprise Fund. It is also recommended that the term of the contract be extended to June 30th, 2020, and the fiscal impact as it is currently budgeted. I move approval.
Is there a second? Councilor Leonard seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Action number 5965.
Yes, this recommended that the city council impose such act. This is a show cause hearing? I'm sorry, Laura. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
This is the show cause hearing. It is recommended that the city council impose such actions as it deems just and fair for the apparent violations of Rhode Island general laws and city ordinances due to the failure of the licensee, Karma Pizza Company LLC, doing business as Karma Pizza, to meet the conditions of the granting of the vittling license. I move approval.
Is there a second?
well, it's
Okay.
a show cause hearing, so
Okay.
I believe the recommendation is going to be that it be continued since the applicant has submitted a application for the victualling license, and this matter can be addressed at that point. I believe it's on for the second meeting this month.
So I will withdraw my motion and motion to continue.
Is there a second to continue? Yes, Councilor Leonard. Please unmute.
I second it, but I'd like to ask a question. Did anybody ask why they have not conformed?
I believe the clerk's been in touch with them, been in touch with the manager in my office, and we've given them direction what will happen if they do not move forward on this. So yes.
Yeah, I understand it, but have they given a reason why they didn't follow the law?
You can ask
Not to me,
That's what I mean.
Madam Chair, no.
Well, I don't think we owe everybody a big whoop-de-doo if they don't follow the law.
I think it's continued to the next meeting.
Yeah.
If there's not a resolution by the next meeting, we can impose whatever penalties are recommended.
Well, just the recommendation will be that we act by citing them into municipal court for operating without a license and also shutting them down for not having a license.
Thank you.
So,
Too bad
Okay,
they make
thank
good
you.
pizza.
Madam
Okay, there's a
Chair?
motion and second to continue this to our next meeting. Yes, Councilor Bova? Yeah.
Oh, there's people who have their hand raised, but if we're continuing, they're probably associated with the business, so.
Right, thank you. Okay, there's a motion second to continue. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Passes unanimously, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn as council and convene as Board of License Commissioners.
Second,
There's motion second to adjourn as the board from the council and adjourn to the licensed commissioners. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
The consent calendar,
Yes, this is a Class F daily liquor license for Festa Italiana, doing business as Newport Festa Italiana Meatball Challenge, Edward King House, September 28th, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I move approval.
second,
There's a motion second, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Licenses and permits, the 2021 Class A liquor store Sunday selling license renewals.
Can I just ask a question? Should we do these separately, all separately, Mr. Bean?
I think you can do them all in a bunch. It's item 2A through G if you would like. If you want to do them separately, you can also do it that way. It would be your preference.
Motion to approve the 2021 Class A liquor store Sunday selling license renewals.
second,
There's a motion second, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
aye.
Please raise your right hand.
Unanimous, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion second to adjourn. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you.
Unanimous. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.